Morning, guys. Welcome to Coffee Chat. Wow, it is another fabulous morning. Not really overly hot, which is just a joy, I'll tell you what, because we went through all those, I think it was over 40 plus days that we were over 100 degrees, and in some cases over 110 degrees here in Texas. So it absolutely feels amazing. Guys, I'll tell you, you can't make stuff up that's happening around the world with what's going on in our economy, can you? I mean, report that I was reading today is talking about a major French retailer. This is out of France, and it's Carrefour. And what they're coming out with is some major alarm bells. They're saying, listen, we are seeing a tsunami of non-purchases, meaning that a lot of retail customers are not out there buying and have cut way back on their spending. And of course, this is affecting all of these major businesses and department stores' bottom lines in a big way. And on top of that, you're dealing with a lot of loss in terms of theft, where people that aren't going to go out there and buy it, well, now you're seeing all these thefts. And of course we're hearing about all these big groups of kids that will run into a store, just grab everything they can and run the heck out. And guys, those are all telltale signs that, look, the economy is not robust. It is nowhere near what they're trying to get us to believe, that, oh, well, things are turning around and we're not in recession and this and that. Not a chance. You are seeing people really make some big time decisions on their spending, aren't you? I mean, look, a lot of people are having to decide whether they're going to be literally, buying groceries or paying their utility bills. And in fact, the second article that I was reading is right up that alley, where literally in the United States right now, in terms of your median to lower income families, a lot of them are literally choosing to cut back on the amount of meals that they're eating per day. That is absolutely staggering. And when you think about that in a Western nation, where we're supposed to be, the prosperous ones on this planet, it is absolutely obscene that people are having to decide to cut back on how many meals they eat a day, not because they're on a diet and trying to get healthy or anything but because they can't afford the amount of food that they need to buy in order to have 3 squares a day. Now that is absolutely obscene. In fact, it's always been my opinion, guys. Judy and I have done a lot of missions work around the world, and we've been to a lot of different, countries and, poorer nations and stuff like that. And every time I go, I think to myself, why, oh, why is this even being allowed? Because in the wide world, there is more than enough for all of us to absolutely be living a basic standard of life where we shouldn't have to be starving and going without food. There are places that I've been in the world where basically the meal is the same every time they eat. It's like a mixed porridge. And I know people that literally had eaten that meal every day of their life until they came into adulthood, because that is what they could afford to eat, practically tasteless and stuff like that. And yet here we are, our spoiled nature over here. I'm telling you what, we need real big wake up calls, because the truth of the matter is we have enjoyed such luxury in comparison to a lot of poorer countries around the world that it really defies belief. And yet, in our countries, you have kids complaining, well, I got to get up and go to school and on and on. Are you kidding me? In a lot of these countries, they're begging to go to school. I remember I was over in Rwanda. This literally happened. And I was out visiting one of the villages there. And we were, ministering to all the kids and things like that and what. And I was just standing way back, kind of observing them that. And I felt this little tug on my pant leg there. And here's this little fella. I look down and he looks up and says, would you please sponsor me to go to school? I'm telling you guys, that's what it's like. And Judy and I certainly gave into those ministries and did absolutely everything we could. And here you got a kid, a little fella, just pleading, will you help me go to school? Because they understand something. They understand the luxury of getting an education and all this and this and that. The world is really hurting, guys, and we are going to be seeing it in a big way. And in the United States and Canada and Great Britain, France, a lot of these Western nations and things like this, we are going to feel the hurt, I believe, in the next year or two in a big way. And of course, that is because the geopolitical and socioeconomic, mood has shifted in a big way around the world. And you got what? You have all these BRICS countries, and especially a lot of these oil producing states that have now decided to jump ship. And don't kid yourself, what we have been afforded, the lifestyle that we have been afforded in the Western world with respect to the petrodollar and the United States world reserve currency status has been staggering when you compare it to other nations around the world. Well, now we're starting to feel the pain. And that's why you're getting articles out there like what's going on in France with Carrefour and what's going on here with a lot of, the big box stores in America and stuff like that. They are really hurting. Now, of course, they don't want to, put out panic out there in the marketplace because they don't want to see their share prices drop, ridiculously. And I believe that Carrefour's share prices dropped literally since this report 16% or something like that. So, of course, when they come out with this kind of information, it really, really hurts the bottom line. And, the stakeholders and all that, they don't want all that information out. But that is in fact what's going on. And get this. I was just reading an article how Nordstrom's has now moved out of San Francisco. They're like, that's it. We're packing it in. We have had too much, theft and loss to, people going in there and just grabbing whatever they want and out the door they go and on and on and on. And so they're leaving San Francisco. And that is an absolute travesty when you think about it. Not so much that Nordstrom's leaving. That's not the travesty. The travesty is how they have allowed the politicians and the powers that be in San Francisco have allowed the city to just fall into such disarray. It is practically mayhem. And in fact, we have kids that are in the, the law enforcement side of things. And when we were out in California and talking to them, they were telling us about, legislation that's been put forth that you can't even stop shoplifters and that type of thing now. You're supposed to just let them run out the door, and they're not even going to prosecute any crimes under like $1,000 worth of theft. So how many people can go in there and, steal $1,000 worth in a day and not be even charged with a crime? And if it's more than that, they're talking about how with Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, a lot of times, they'll catch them, they'll arrest them, and literally within a few hours, there they are, right back out onto the street. It is something else. And, Gerald Salante loves to say something, and I actually enjoy it. And I haven't watched Gerald in a long, long time, but he would come out with something like this. When people lose everything, they lose it. That is a fact. When people lose everything, they lose it. And boy, are we starting to see some desperate things happen in our society. And the politicians, the powers that be, they know that we're seeing this kind of upheaval. And I'm telling you, they are definitely thinking about how to prepare before total, absolute pandemonium and civil unrest takes a hold. Because guys, I believe personally, eventually, if something's not done and done soon, and we fall into a kind of a Great Depression type of event, you are going to see social unrest and pandemonium like you have never seen it before. People are just going to go wild. Remember in the last Great Depression, it was absolutely cataclysmic. But the deal is this. Do you know how many people now, because back then they didn't have like all these credit cards. People weren't, like head over heels in debt to the way they are now. And of course, we're seeing big time credit card defaults. But you just imagine what it's like. Do you think that people are going to patiently wait in soup and bread lines the way they are now? Are you kidding me? It will be, it's going to be, hey, survival of the fittest almost in that capacity. That's why I say, look, go out there now while we still have an opportunity to kind of get and stock up your pantry, stock up the things that you use, because in heavy inflation, a lot of economists are calling and they're saying, look, we are going to potentially see some inflation numbers that are going to literally boggle the mind. And of course, loss of jobs. When you see all these stores shutting down and closures and things like that, there's that domino effect. Now, it may not have hit your shores yet, But you be assured it is. And in fact, I was reading another article, and there's a lot of them out there, guys. Go read the articles, but there's a lot of them out there. And in this one, it was talking about how you got a couple, a two-income family, both of them earning like over like, because the median's 35. These people are earning 50 grand each or something to that effect. So they're bringing in a six-figure income for the family and can barely even make it with their, the kids' school, with the house insurance, with the mortgage, with the car payments, with the credit cards, and on and on and on. And it has reached a level of absolute desperation. And these are working people, and they're becoming the working poor. That's what's really going on. Guys, it is just literally insane. And the deal is this: most people don't even have just a few bucks to set aside for any kind of savings. And in fact, one of the stats that is out there is that, like, I think more than 40% of Americans don't even have $1,000 saved. That is truly wild. But when you think about that, if they don't have savings, do you think that they have any money to invest in anything or to prepare or to kind of get a counterbalance and be involved in this digital asset space? Not in your life. So if you're in this space, and even if you have just a small position, consider yourself genuinely blessed, because a majority of people don't. They're not there, and they're not positioned for what's coming, because as we transition into this new digital economy, you're going to watch the valuations, in my personal belief, of these assets literally go wild. And it's because, hey, the value of the dollar to purchase them is going to decrease. The demand for this new system is going to be so wild that it's going to cause a lot of these assets to appreciate, and in ways that we can't even fathom. I genuinely believe that. Look at what happened during the whole this, right? Whole wide world's locked down. Economy's down to a screeching halt. Nobody's doing anything really, right? Except, banging our pots and pans and stuff like that, of course. Well, what happened? Probably one of the biggest bull runs in the history of the world happened. And equities and this market, it changed. Look, it changed Judy and I's life, and we weren't even looking for it. What we were looking to do is to find a safe haven to protect the purchasing power of our savings, which we looked at where we thought, man alive, we're going to get decimated here with all of this helicopter money, that is being thrown out there, for all the people that weren't able to go to work and all that kind of stuff. And, so that's what we were looking for. And, we couldn't get any physical gold and silver. Nobody was selling any of that. And we fell into this space by happenstance, and it literally changed our world. Now, I don't believe at this point that it was happenstance. There's a proverb out there, one I really love, and it says, many are the plans of a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevailed. I genuinely believe that was the blessing of Almighty God over our life, and I'm so grateful for His grace in that capacity. And guys, we all need to be. The fact that you're aware of this space is a gift of God, and that is exactly how I feel about it, because you go out there and canvass your neighborhood and find out how many people really know about it. Most people are completely and totally oblivious. Consider that. And the fact that you're in this space when you are, we are early. I kid you not. And in my estimation, it will represent probably the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind when it actually is all said and done. But in any case, guys, there's a lot of people around us, around the world right now, that are genuinely hurting. And we need to be very cognizant and aware of our environment and what's going on, and at least prepare for it. Prepare for what's coming down the road, That's how I think about that. Well, anyway, guys, I know that doesn't sound like a great test, but the thing is this: no matter where we are, it's not what's acting all around us, it's how we react to it, and that's what you have to look for. You gotta see the future through the eyes of hope. And that is something you hold on to. It's quintessential. It's absolutely necessary. You got to keep hope alive.